This week, we're in Hog Country, SEC Country, Fayetteville, Arkansas, with the athletic director at the beautiful University of Arkansas, Hunter Yurachek.
We're getting deep into Arkansas in this episode, and as always, it's brought to you by 500level.com, the best t-shirts in sports. All the Razorback fans out there, tons of players in the NBA. We got Patrick Beverley shirts, Bobby Portis, Isaiah Joe from the Thunder, Moses Moody, your guy from the Warriors, DK. All these Arkansas guys have amazing shirts on 500level.com. Use the discount code PODCAST at checkout for 20% off everything on the site. Go Razorbacks!
Hi, this is Hunter Yurachek, Director of Athletics at the University of Arkansas, and I'm on with the One Star Recruits podcast.
Yo, aloha. Welcome to the podcast. Hope everybody's having a wonderful week, whether you're eating a burger at Faded Rose or Buffalo Grill or having a nice lunch break at Rock and Riley's, Rip, or Dirt Dogs. Do you ever eat around the LA Coliseum, Rip? Is that a place people eat?
Well, if anyone that is familiar with downtown LA, the best Mexican food in probably the entire West Coast is lots of food trucks downtown LA. Eric Musselman's probably going to stop at a few of those in the next few days.
Possibly. Could get a must sighting. It's been an interesting week for the One Stars. We ended in some territory that, we're wrestling around with the Hogs that we didn't fully expect to be here, but we're happy to be here. To be honest, Rip, it's a beautiful day for me in Kalaheo, Hawaii. We got confirmation early this week that the Razorbacks will be back in Maui for the 2027 Maui Invitational in Lahaina. All is well in the world. We do a little interview. Kind of started to go a little bit, Rip. They are passionate in Fayetteville about basketball and football. I'll tell you that much. And I knew it, bro. I knew it in 2022 when I was living in Lahaina in Maui. I want to tie that together because I saw the Must Bus live and in person. It was a great squad. Anthony Black, Ricky Council. I think that they defeated a good Louisville team and a Creighton squad and a San Diego State team. It was amazing, but I got to watch Musselman do what Musselman does live and in person. Great coach. I get the passion. I fully understand it. And I'm happy they're coming back for 2027. So put that aside.
Will he be the coach there in 2027? Will he be the coach there tomorrow? That's the question of the hour.
It's a question. He's a great coach. And we found ourselves kind of in the middle of it, Rip, a little bit this week.
In the middle of it is right. Basically, we set Arkansas Twitter on fire. I mean, there's a whole story that we go into in this interview coming up with Hunter Yurachek. But basically, in the last 24 to 48 hours, the Eric Musselman, the Must Bus, might be on the move. And it's getting serious. As we release the podcast today on Wednesday, Muss is interviewing at USC, which is all the rumors. Who knows if our tweet had anything to do with it, DK? I'm not going to go that far. But one thing that you'll hear at the end of this interview that will really resonate with everyone, especially Razorback fans, is Hunter says, the athletic director says, I'd rather have a passionate fan base that throws daggers some of the time than have an apathetic fan base that doesn't care. And that's really what it is, DK. And these episodes, why we get these athletic directors on, by the way, this is our third major Power 5 conference athletic director, I believe. So we've been here before. We're One Stars, but we've been here before. A lot of the reason we have these guys on is because they don't talk a lot and people want to hear from them. People, they don't talk to the media a lot. People want to hear what they have to say, which is why this resonates so much with people. Good or bad, the fan base is passionate, like he says, and there's no arguing that.
A lot of questions right now at Arkansas. Bottom line is you have to win in the SEC. That is the bottom line. Basketball is becoming very important. Football is still king. Football is still king, but basketball is important, and we see it in March. And guess what? You got to get into the tournament. Not only do you have to get into the tournament, you have to go a little deep into this tournament for basketball happiness. So we're looking for playoff wins in football. We're looking for tournament wins in basketball. Enjoy this interview with Hunter Yurachek.
Now joining the One Star Recruits podcast, we have a husband, a father, a 4-year letter winner as a scrappy guard for the Guilford Quakers in the late 1980s, and the current vice chancellor and director of athletics at the University of Arkansas. Hunter Yurachek is on with the One Star Recruits. Thanks for hopping on, Hunter.
It's great. You guys got the scouting report nailed. A scrappy point guard from Guilford College. It's no better description than that.
We're One Stars, Hunter. We couldn't even make our high school sports team. What were you like as a player, as a Quaker? Were you a 3-and-D guy? You kind of take me as a 3-and-D guy.
You described me exactly right. Scrappy. That's how I got on the court. I played defense. I took charges. I distributed the ball. I tried not to turn it over. I rarely shot. So I did all the little things for sure.
That's right. That's right. And you have three sons now who have all played or are currently playing college athletics, including a son Brooks, who's a linebacker for the Arkansas football team. Was everybody home for the holidays? And who has the remote control in that family after dinner when you're sitting around? Who's in charge?
Yeah, that's interesting that you asked that question. A lot of testosterone running around my house when we're all home together. And as you mentioned, I have three boys. Ryan, my oldest, 27 years old. He's now on the staff at South Carolina on Coach Beamer's staff there. Played football, tight end at Marshall University, and then got a chance to be on the practice squad for the Cowboys and the Raiders for a couple of years. Never really took a snap in a regular season game, and just football's in his blood. And he wanted to get into coaching. And then Jake, our middle son, started his football career at Colorado, transferred here to Arkansas after I got this job. Was a special teams player for the most part. Also played linebacker. Now he's fundraising in the athletic program at SMU. And then Brooks, as you mentioned, is our youngest. He started his career at Wake Forest. Transferred here to the University of Arkansas, and he's in his first full semester here at Arkansas as an inside linebacker. So it's great to have all of them involved in sports and college athletics. As student athletes, and now two of them in administration, I think that there's so much value that goes overlooked in this day and age of NIL about the experience of being a student athlete at this level. And I was so happy that they got that opportunity. And I think they are seeing the benefits, at least Ryan and Jake are now in their professional careers.
Amazing. Thanks for the breakdown. That's so wonderful. Did you have everybody home for the holidays?
We did not. Jake was able to come up from Dallas, and Brooks was here, and then Ryan and his wife Morgan were expecting their first child, and our first grandson was born on January the 5th, and so they weren't able to get home for the holidays. But it was great to get out to Columbia and see our grandchild a little bit earlier this spring.
There it is. There it is. We're going to switch it over from happiness and love over to something that we're all talking about, the college football playoffs, one of your favorite. You must be a man who just wants more, maybe more stress in his life, maybe a problem solver. Not, but you hopped on. You hopped on, Hunter. And the next college football season, we have 12-team playoff coming up. You were chosen in February to be part of a 13-person college football selection committee. Are you just a glutton for stress, my friend?
Yeah, I think probably I am, but I'm looking forward to that opportunity. When you look at the committees you have an opportunity to serve on as administrator in college athletics, the CFP committee, the NCAA men's basketball committee, the baseball committee are some of the most sought after committees. They do put some extra stress in your life and obviously some extra work and travel on your plate. But the opportunity with my boys, again, having played football and I've been around college football a great deal over the last 12 to 15 years, and to serve as the SEC representative on that committee. Looking forward to that challenge and working along with some colleagues that I have great relationships with on that committee to be a part of the first group that selects 12 playoff teams as we face that daunting task this fall.
It's going in the right direction. I'm happy that you're part of it. We as fans appreciate kind of the growth and the new outlook. What fans don't always know about is kind of everything else that goes on besides basketball and football and some of these big programs. Arkansas is consistently rated high in the Directors Cup. This incorporates, listeners, all of the success across men's and women's, regularly top 15 finishes with Hunter and the athletics department at Arkansas. Congratulations. Is it frustrating a little bit when fans get so hung up on maybe football and basketball and less focused? You guys have a great volleyball program. Your cross-country runners are always doing wonderful things, great numbers. Is that frustrating?
I don't know that it's frustrating. I understand where our fan base is, and obviously everybody wants our football and men's basketball and baseball programs here at Arkansas to be successful. But I'm the director of athletics, not the director of football, the director of men's basketball. I have 19 sports programs and 465 student athletes. And I want all of those 465 student athletes to have an opportunity for success in their athletic venues. We talk about that a great deal as a staff. And you mentioned the Directors Cup. That's incredibly important to us as a department. It does show that you have a broad-based, successful athletic program. The fact that the University of Arkansas, our budget ranks right now 10th or 11th out of 14 SEC schools and our overall operating budget, but the fact that we're able to finish 7th, 8th, and 13th in the last 3 years out of 350 schools in the Learfield Directors Cup is a tribute to our incredible student athletes. And that metric takes your top 20 sports and breaks it down by how you finish nationally. So to put that in perspective, first and foremost for us, we only have 19 sports. So we're missing one metric. And a school like Stanford, who has a great athletic program, but they're generally one of the ones that wins the Learfield Cup. They have 30 plus sports, so they can take their bottom 11 or 12 and throw them out when it talks about Directors Cup standings and just take truly their top 20 sports. And so what our coaches, their leadership of our student athletes and what our student athletes have achieved. We talk about, we've won 35 Southeastern Conference championships among 11 different sports in the last 6 years. That leads our SEC counterparts, the other 13. Florida's next, I believe, with 28. We've got 7 or 8 that have won less than 10. There's one that hasn't won one during that same time period. And so when you talk about broad-based, people always talk about our track and field program, which is great, but we've had 11 different sports that have won conference championships over the last 5 or 6 years.
I'm here in Hawaii too, and I got to give a shout out to Coach Jason Watson and the volleyball team, man. We got a great volleyball program here. It takes over in the islands. So yeah. Big aloha to Jason Watson. We see you, Razorback volleyball. We see what you're doing.
Yeah, they had a great year. Had 3 incredible seniors that are all now playing professionally now. But they got together 5 years ago, and they stayed together in this era where people want to transfer from one school to the next. And they built a program really from the ground up. When they first got on campus, we were probably the worst team in the Southeastern Conference, and they stayed together. They stuck to Coach Watson's plan, and as they graduated, they led us to our best volleyball season in the history of our program. We advanced to the Final 8. Got to play at Nebraska and the Elite 8 in front of an incredible crowd and environment to attribute to the fans there at Nebraska. And our girls took them to 4 games and had a chance to get it to the 5th game and just couldn't get over that hump. But just an incredible volleyball season, and Coach Watson has done a great job.
Coach Watson, and we got baseball and softball almost every day now. And really, when you're competing in a conference like the SEC, there's never a dull moment. And last week was a busy one in Fayetteville over the Easter break, and even before that, you had a little to do with it also, because you tweeted an interesting video involving a bus, men's hoops coach Eric Musselman, him saying "buckle up," and you saying "wait a minute, you're still here." And really, it caused a little bit of a stir on social media, because there's been speculation that it was actually recorded a couple years ago. And of course, Muss has had the NCAA tournament success over the past few years, but this past season, as everyone knows, was a little bit of a down year with no postseason appearance. What is the status of Eric Musselman as the Arkansas men's basketball coach for next season? Is there a contract extension in place?
Yeah, so you guys are exactly right. That was a video that was recorded a few years ago. That video was probably 30 or 40 seconds in length, and we edited that down. I had our communication staff edit that down. As you guys alluded to, Coach Musselman, much to his success, has been rumored for multiple jobs that have been open here in this offseason. And he's still the basketball coach as we sit here today and record this podcast at the University of Arkansas. He has been well taken care of in his past contracts, where he's had a couple of extensions in the past few years and 6-figure increases. There's not a new contract in place for him this year, but that video was just to kind of dispel some of the rumors that, hey, he's still our basketball coach. Now, this may change tomorrow. You'll have to ask Coach Musselman that, but we very much want him to be an Arkansas Razorback. We feel like where his contract currently sits, he's compensated in the top 12 to 15 coaches in the country. He's earned that compensation and done a great job. And that video was nothing more than an athletic director trying to have a little bit of fun with some fan bases and naysayers that saying, hey, Coach Musselman's leaving. Well, he may be leaving, but right now he's still here, and he's still our basketball coach, and he's still driving the bus.
I like that, Hunter. Having a little fun on social media. Why not? Did Muss know you were posting the video, or is that your sense of humor coming across?
That is my sense of humor coming across. That was not something that was a coordinated or collaborated effort between myself and Coach Musselman. My communications team did a great job kind of cutting and splicing that video together from a previous video we had put out a few years ago, and just kind of reused that as we headed into the Easter weekend.
I dig it. I like it.
Well, you're a great follow on social media for all the Razorbacks fans. I love it when you can put some sense of humor in there and update everyone all the time on the sports that are going on. We end every interview with the segment we call 1 star to 5 star. We're 1 stars. Everybody knows it. We're trying to get better, though, with advice and tips from every guest we have on the podcast. So I want to ask you just a few questions to close it out that run the gamut on a 1 to 5 star scale here. DK mentioned earlier, all three of your sons are involved in college athletics in some capacity. And I've heard you mention before how different each of them are, whether it's one being more sensitive than the other, one you can push harder than the other, things like that. And for me, it was really insightful because I have 2 young kids, 5 and 7. They're both boys. Just from a vet who's been there and gone through it, what's the 5-star parenting tip for raising boys where we know each of them have their own differences and you can't treat them all the same?
Yeah, I mean, you have to treat them fairly, but I'm not sure you can treat them equally. That would be my advice. And you touched on it. My oldest son, Ryan, I could push him and push him and push him, and he wanted to be pushed and want to be driven, and he would take that the right way. My middle son wanted to be pushed, but he'd kind of laugh at some of the times and I'd push him. And my youngest son, as you said, he may be tending towards a more sensitive side and may not take that the same way. And so I think that each young child, whether my children or other children, they have their own unique talents and they have their own unique personalities. There's not one personality that's the same. And as a parent, you have to learn like what buttons you can press and what you shouldn't press from one child to the next. But you know what I've learned as I've grown, and I think I learned from my first son to my third son, that some of the things, the worries that consume you, especially as you watch your kids on sports fields, they were worries that you never, ever should have had as a parent. And that, sports is really about your son or your daughter learning to be a great teammate, leadership, have fun, learn some skills that will help them in life and be very valuable. And whether they win or lose or hit 400 or throw for 5 touchdowns or whatever the case may be, in the end of their development really doesn't matter. It's the experience they have. And it's, I think the best thing for parents, it's your kid's experience, not your experience. Too many times as parents, we try to make it about our experience, and it's your kid's experience. And that would be the best, I guess, 5-star advice that I've learned over the time, that it's about your kid's experience, not your experience.
I love that perspective there, and it's important for folks to remember. I mean, you have a very scrutinized job, but you're still a dad on the sidelines cheering on the kids and watching them go through those life lessons there. So thank you for that.
And by the way, I screwed that up several times.
You yelling at umpires out there and referees?
I may have yelled at an umpire or two from time to time.
I love it. We all do it. Moving on to football a little bit. Sam Pittman has a significant buyout number in his contract, and it's the 2 straight years of declining records, including 4-8 last season. Lots of close losses in there for sure. Excitement levels are at highs, though, now with Bobby Petrino back to run the offense this season. On a scale of 1 to 5 stars, how much is 2024, let's call it a make or break year for Coach Pittman and that staff?
Yeah, I don't know that it is a make or break year, but we definitively have to show some improvement from the 2023 season, which was a disappointment from a record standpoint, to the 2024 season. You mentioned it. We had some close games. We had games on the road against Alabama, against Ole Miss, and against LSU that were 1-possession games that we had an opportunity to win all 3 of those games late in the fourth quarter. And think about that. If you beat an Ole Miss, you beat an Alabama, you beat an LSU. If you win 2 of those 3 games on the road, our season looks dramatically different with those wins. And so we were on the cusp. One of the things our program, I think, was really missing last year was strong leadership, both on the offense and defensive side of the ball. We had some talent. I'm not sure we had great leadership. And then we had an offensive coordinator that may not have been the best fit at the best time for our program. And that's where Coach Petrino has filled in that gap. one of the things I truly believe that Sam Pittman missed last year was having a head coach like he had in Barry Odom. Former head coach is a member of his staff. Coach Petrino's been a head coach in the NFL and at many stops along the college space. And so I think he offers a different perspective and point of view for coach that he did not have. So to answer your question, I don't know that this is a make or break year, but this is a year definitively we've got to show some improvement heading back in the direction away from 4-8 and towards 7-5, 8-4.
Hunter, is Coach Petrino okay in that role? That's kind of a role when you know, a lot of people look at him and think, man, that's a head coach coming. Is there a path there? We were obviously known we're very happy with the current situation, but I think the fans want to know, is this a path to a head coach over time if things don't turn out the way that we expect them to?
I will tell you that that is not definitively a path here at the University of Arkansas for him to get back to be a head coach. I don't know if he has aspirations to be a head coach somewhere else. What I will tell you is he's done a great job so far being our offensive coordinator. He's been incredibly supportive of Sam Pittman and buying into the program that Sam Pittman has. He has done a great job with our offense, and he's filling the role as offensive coordinator very, very well.
We talked about the scrutiny. We talked about the 19 sports, but the focus on just a couple a lot of the times. And whether it's fair or not, a lot of fans will judge your overall legacy at Arkansas as an AD on how successful the football season goes, given the perceived risk of bringing Bobby back on board and also keeping Pittman in place after the 4-win season. The scrutiny, the make or break decisions, all those one-star parts about being an athletic director. How do you feel about that? Whether it's fair or not, like I said, fans judging your overall legacy based on one or two sports.
Hard job.
Yeah, no, it's a hard job. And guys, I'll be honest, I'm not in this to create any type of legacy for myself. I'm in this because I had an opportunity 30 years ago to enter a profession where I can have an impact on young men and women and their development as young men and women and as student athletes. And I have a passion for it. I wear a bracelet every day that says, do what you love and love what you do. And I do what I love, and I love what I do because of the young men and young women that I get to be around day in and day out, and how special they make me feel. I'm here for them, but boy, they are here for me in a big way. And so I try to block out the noise. I'm not active on social media from receiving things. I push out information about our student athletes and their success and their upcoming games and events and things of that nature. I have been really strict as far as not reading what's on social media. My wife has never been on social media. I don't read local newspaper. I don't partake of local radio or TV. And so I think that's helped me kind of manage those expectations that our fans have about me and my role. Am I naive enough to think that no one cares about our football men's basketball program? I'm not. And I care more than anybody because our football and our men's basketball program collectively generate 90% of the revenue that provides the success, the fuel that's needed to put in the engine for the success of our other programs. And so I talk very freely with our head coaches and with our student athlete leadership group that I will make decisions that are in the best interest of our football and basketball program because they need to be successful here at the University of Arkansas for us to have that broad-based success that we need. So look, there's scrutiny that comes with this job. And as I've grown from an athletic director at Coastal Carolina University, my first AD job, to the University of Houston to here, the microscope is much, much brighter here for a number of reasons. One, you're in the Southeastern Conference, but two, you're the only Power 5 team in this state. There's no other professional teams in this state. And we have an incredibly passionate fan base for the Razorbacks. And you see that every weekend, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, softball, gymnastics, swimming, tennis. I mean, our fans come out and they support Razorback student athletes. And, you know, I'd rather have a passionate fan base that's throwing daggers a few times than an apathetic fan base that really doesn't care.
That's really what it is. And 1,000%. The reality is you can't please everyone, but we appreciate you being candid and down to earth on this interview because we talked about some of the parenting stuff, and it's just the whole picture here. We wish you the best of luck going forward, and thank you again, Hunter. Everyone can go follow Hunter I know you're not reading everyone's mentions, but it's at Hunter Yurachek on Twitter. Anything you want to know about Arkansas athletics is ArkansasRazorbacks.com. Best of luck, continued success in the future. Thank you again for coming on with the One Star Recruits.
Yeah, Rip, DK, I appreciate it. Appreciate you guys. And you guys are not 1-stars. You're much better than that.
Let's go. Hey, get your baseball tickets too. Get your baseball tickets, listeners. Let's go.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Special thanks again to AD Hunter Yurachek from the University of Arkansas, DK. And that was some of our best work. We asked the hard-hitting questions. He answered them candidly. We thanked him for that. And really, to me, all this anger is being directed at Hunter on Twitter, on social media, which I hope he's not reading. He said he doesn't really pay attention to it too much, but there's a lot of blame to go around here. I think some of it is his fault. That Must Bus video was ridiculous, but what he said on our podcast, I don't fault him for any of that. If you really want to look at it, as I expect Eric Musselman to be signing a contract at USC today or tomorrow, he's leaving Arkansas for Los Angeles in a way less pressure situation. Can you really blame the guy?
You look at his history, he's not one to stay put for a super long time. I love Muss. When I was working in the G League, he was just getting off of his Reno Bighorns tour. The man loves basketball. I mean, I see him make an Orlando stop. He was in Golden State, Memphis, Sacramento, Reno, as I mentioned, Arizona State, LSU, Nevada, obviously Arkansas. Now, the man moves around. And Los Angeles, for the amount of money, the clout of that job, and shit, 80-degree weather year round. It's a family decision, I suppose, but it's pretty clear to me with his history. And this is a good thing, possibly. This allows Arkansas to start fresh. It's a opportunity to look at a program maybe like Alabama that really utilized the transfer portal well in basketball in particular, and was able to Frankenstein themselves back to success a little bit with energy. And maybe there's different opportunities. I've heard some names floating around. I'm not going to get into the names. I'll let X do all the new names because we don't know. We're just 1-stars trying to.
I'll give you a name. How about we talk about promoting from within. We always lobby for Calbert Chaney to be the next coach at Indiana. How about Keith Smart? He's on the staff. He loves Fayetteville. He's there now. He's won championships as a player, had a lot of success. How about Keith Smart? How about hiring a guy who really wants to be there?
Get him in there. Coach Smart, wonderful human, friend of the podcast. Chris Beard says, hold my beer. Because nobody said Keith Smart yet. Yeah, everybody's looking for the sexy hire all the time. Maybe it's the guy right in the backyard. We'll see. It's going to be exciting. Football came up in that interview. We didn't even really talk that much, Rip, about football. We're pretty far away from it.
Let's talk about it, though, because that's the most damning thing he said in our interview to me is that he's not sure if 2024 is a make or break year for Sam Pittman. It clearly is. He hired Bobby Petrino in a really risky move. And he mentioned in this interview that he wants to see progress toward a 7-5 or 8-4 record. To me, that's just not going to cut it in the SEC. Your goals have to be higher. And I'm sure, of course, he'd love to be 10-2, 11-1, but just to sound even happy with a 7-5 or 8-4 record, and that's going to get Sam Pittman another year. I don't think Razorback fans are going to be happy with that one.
Yeah, happiness is not the word, brother. Happiness is not the word. Bobby Petrino had a quick press conference this week, which was a little interesting. He named a QB we're a little familiar with, a big guy, Taylon Green, who went to Boise State. Kind of interesting cat, 220 pounds. The only difference, this guy can run. He has legs. So we kind of got a different Ferrari in the garage this year, I think, than we've had with size and speed. And we'll see what Petrino has. I asked him about the path for a head coach there with Petrino. This guy's leading the press conferences in the spring. Signs might be there. Read the signs. Signs might be there, Rip. Who knows? Anyway, it was a good interview, and I think you're right. I think what we went in to learn a little bit more about the program, just overall, and we got a little bit deeper into some of the nuances and the political movements that are happening in these universities. It's an interesting time for D1 universities. I told him, I said, you have a hard damn job. This is not easy dealing with the wild, wild west that has become college athletics. So I wish him the best, Rip. I think everything's going to work out just fine. The NCAA Final Four is telling us a pretty clear story of how to get to success, in my opinion, at least on the basketball side.
That's why we like to have these ADs on, DK. And if you listen to this podcast, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, subscribe to us. We're going to have ADs on in the future. It might not be the Arkansas AD, but you're going to hear from maybe an Alabama AD, an Oregon AD, some of the big Power 5 schools. And just a quick backstory on this. This interview has been scheduled for about 2 or 3 weeks, and it happened to be scheduled for Monday, a few days after Hunter tweeted out the Must Bus video. So, there's a lot of talk on Twitter about why is he, coming on this small little Southern California podcast. And it wasn't to talk to us about this situation, but we just happened to ask those questions. And that's what we're about here on One Star Recruits. We're trying to get stuff answered. We're trying to ask people stuff that hasn't been asked. And I like the part about this interview where he just talks about being a dad and yelling at umpires and referees while his kids are playing Little League. I mean, again, I say it in the interview, but you got to remember this guy is a husband, a father. He happens to have a high profile and stressful job, but he's a regular human being. And I think he's done everything he can to retain Musselman at this point. But maybe if Muss leaves to USC, or if it's already a done deal, direct some anger at him and not at all at Hunter.
Sensitive Rip, the lover, keeping the peace. Hey, it's good to get in this and learn a little bit more. I'm really excited to continue to see the journey of all parties involved, see where it ends up. Hey, we could be talking next year, Final Four. Final Four is set here for this year. A couple number ones, Rip, a couple surprises. To me, at least, a couple surprises. Zach Edey's playing his best basketball. I've kind of been a Zach Edey hater a little bit. I feel like they lost games they shouldn't have lost. I feel like he could be great, but he's just good. He's been playing great this whole tournament, and Matt Painter and his squad has that whole team buying in, going through Zach and hitting threes. Key to success. Nate Oates, we mentioned him at Alabama, repping for the SEC. Great example of working the portal, adjusting the roster, adjusting his style. I think he changed his whole assistant staff and playing with big time heart, Rip, and big time defense. And then NC State, this is a team I don't know. As I say it right now, I don't even know. I know they got Big DJ holding it down. They play good defense. But shit, you couldn't have paid me $1 million to ever make this pick that we'd see NC State here doing what they're doing. And then, of course, UConn. You mentioned it, how hard coaching is. I mentioned it with Muss real fast. Quick story, Rip, on Danny Hurley. Just quick journey story, just so listeners understand that this is no joke of a career choice and kind of understanding why he maybe is the way he is. But Danny Hurley, the head coach of UConn, his squad has just been exceptional. So I mentioned those three teams who are there. They're great. This UConn team is exceptional and composed and together really the last 2 years. But this year in particular, the Hurley brothers, Rip. I mean, shout out to Bobby. We've had Bobby on the podcast here too at Arizona State. This guy's just a different breed, though. Life as a coach. Danny himself, he played at Seton Hall. Stayed in New Jersey. His brother went to Duke. We heard that story. He worked with his pops at St. Anthony's. He worked at Rutgers. He went back to high school, St. Benedict Prep in Newark for 9 years, Rip. That's where the grind happens in this coaching game. That's where I think Arkansas should go to. Take a look at some of these guys young putting in this grind at that mode where they can stay for 30, 40 years. But back to Danny. He coached guys there like J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson, some big names in that program. Then he's back to college, went to Wagner, University of Rhode Island for 6 years, gets him to the NCAA tournament in his last couple years. The key to success. Like I said, once you get there, then you start moving. Boom, the UConn job opens up. And he's a very good coach, man. High energy, high connection points to his players and to the fan base. It's a realness and it's an edge that he has that his team is taken on. So holy shit, Rip. Coaching is a hard job. I do give you kudos. You believed in this UConn team as you should have. I never want to take the number one best ever. I always like going for the underdogs, but you knew it early. I give a lot to the Hurley family, the Hurley pops. But Danny Hurley, you see these teams taking on the, what do you call it? The being of their head coach when it's right, when the vibe is right, when the energy is right. The team actually becomes the personality of that head coach, and that's when the magic happens. So kudos to the tournament, kudos to basketball, and hope for the future of what your team could be with this as an example. But it's not easy. This is my point of that whole long fucking rant, Rip. You know what I mean?
We talked a lot earlier. This entire podcast has been based on Eric Musselman possibly moving away from Arkansas. Do you think there's a job out there that would get Danny Hurley to leave UConn at this point. It's assuming they win the title again back to back. I mean, NBA, I can't think of any other college job that he should
There's not a
possibly
lot.
go
I mean,
for.
Kentucky could be a possible gig, that maybe would look at, but
You would leave why leave UConn for Kentucky though? Like you're at the top of the mountain right now. Why not just stay there? You've built the infrastructure to be good for a long time. Why not just stay there rather than it's almost a lateral move to me.
it's the question of life. It's why there's more than just that or this. There's your family, where you're from, what type of weather you like, where you want to live. There's lots of things that go into this. The era of coaches staying in one city, or even players staying in one city for an extended period of time, is history.
By the way, thanks for the kudos on UConn, but the real accomplishment here is I had Alabama in my Final Four. I had
Yeah,
Alabama,
yeah.
UConn, Purdue, and we'll say Vermont. I did have Vermont, so we won't talk about that part. But I had three of the Final Four. It was probably my best performance ever in a bracket.
You like Nate Oates. You knew something about that North Dakota State kid before the rest of us, huh, Rip? You knew he was going to play 4 inches bigger in this tournament.
That's what she said.
But that's my story, man. So it's been good. It's been a good run. I'm excited for this next week to wrap up. The women's Final Four has been terrific. Angel Reese, who's been on this podcast, sadly, is out, but a great career at Maryland and LSU. Caitlin Clark, I was locked in. We were supposed to leave to an event. I said, I need to watch this last quarter. It felt important. It was entertaining. I know it's not for everybody with women's hoops, Rip. It's not really for me all the time, but we were watching greatness this week with women's basketball and those two players in particular. So I also want to give them. I'm doing a bow down. It's a podcast. It's bad, but it was good stuff. That was good hoops. That was good entertainment. That was stuff that I'll remember and I'll probably talk about in my future life to other people when I watched Angel Reese go against Caitlin Clark.
This is a one-star question, but this shows you how little women's hoops I watch. When did women's college basketball go from having two halves like the men to having 4 quarters? That was a shock to me when I found that out this week. I said they're in the third quarter. I thought it was a misprint.
Throws a lot of people off. Definitely throws my wife off and trying to understand the ebbs flows of timing sporting events of when they're going to be over. So it's tough. We still got a hill to climb, Rip. There was a 3-point line that was put in incorrectly.
That's what happens when you put 1 stars in charge, man. Uneven 3-point line. That's about as bad as it gets.
Uneven 3-point line, man. It's just the worst, and that's the type of stuff that has to get cleaned up here. Lots of, but this Caitlin Clark particularly, and what she done, I think, has put a spotlight on the sport, and we'll see how it grows, man. We'll see how it grows. All right, Rip, let's do what we do best. Let's do a 1-star moments of the week. Anything that we did that was 1 star that we don't want to admit to the world, that we're right here admitting to the world. What do you got?
I talked about it a little bit before, but the last 24 to 48 hours, our Twitter mentions have been crazy. I'm getting Google alerts that people are quoting 1-star recruits all over the place for good reason with this Hunter Yurachek video. But I'm a little sensitive, DK. I told you, I'm the opposite of Hunter Yurachek. I'm checking everything. I'm responding to everything, and just a few of these comments, actually, a lot of these comments are kind of getting to me. They're why is he coming on this little podcast based in Southern California? These guys only have 400, 500 followers, this and that, and that's my 1-star moment of the week. Is that I can't sweep those things under the rug, so I get a little upset at that stuff, and I just got to have more thick skin. I got to be a little more Hunter Yurachek. But yeah, this is what we do, man. We're 1-stars. We're here every week. We've been doing it for 4 years. So get familiar and subscribe to the pod. That's all. That's my reply to everybody. Check it out. This interview's out today. Listen to the whole thing. Listen next week. We're here. We're here, DK.
Can't read the comments, Rip, all the time. You just got to move on with your life. Let things flow, and I say, sometimes you want to tube the river without a lot of rocks. Take the nice chill road. If you want to read them, you want to hop in. It's going to be a bumpy ride. But I'm grateful that that clip got out there and people took to it, whether they hated it or loved it. It's always fun to be out there. 1-star moment of the week for me, my sweet dog, Abby, getting a little bit older. Sweetest dog ever. Also very independent thinker for a dog. Independent doer and action taker. She has decided that she's now just going to take her dog shits on the sidewalk, not stepping over to the grass anymore. Not really because of any health issues or any reason other than I think that she's just waiting till the last minute and wanting to do that. So it's been happening a handful of times. really, I kind of planned it so it wasn't an inconvenient spots ever. I want to apologize in advance to the staff at Verde in La Hui, nice little Mexican restaurant. I placed an order, was waiting for the food, decided I'll take the dogs up. Maybe they need to go to the restroom. Do a little walk right in front of a booth full of 6 people eating their chips and salsa.
Ooh.
This sweet dog decides to do a sidewalk poo right there, and I can do nothing except for just look at them and then look away and then look at her.
That's the worst because they can't ignore it. It's like a car wreck happening right next to them. They have to look at
They're
it.
pointing at each other. They're saying, "Look at this dog," and I'm sweating, and she's taking her time. She's good, happy as ever. Luckily, I had a bag. I've been in these situations
Oh,
before.
yeah.
Where you have not had bags. You got to go grab a leaf.
Then you got to ask for their napkin if they're right there eating at a table. Sir, can I have your napkin? Can I borrow your napkin?
Sweet Lord. So she did her business. Luckily, I had a bag. I did a pickup. Was not a clean pickup. Was not a clean pickup.
Oh,
the
smear on the
bottom
sidewalk?
bottom smear enough that I couldn't fully walk away without being completely an asshole. So I went over to the hostess Santa and I said, my older dog had an accident. You guys might want to throw some water on there. And I just put my head down in shame and fucking got out of there as quick as possible. Just incredibly embarrassed. Got my food. I don't think I'll be going back to that restaurant. Went back 2 weeks later to do a walk by. Same area without the dogs. Residue's still there, Rip. Terrible person.
I hope those poor people got a refund for their lunch. They
I
have
don't
to look at that
I
smear
mean,
for the next 45 minutes and try to eat
they got a
eat their
story.
avocado toast.
A lot of my friends still use Arby's stories of gross stuff that happened at Arby's to be their story of the week when we're getting together. So maybe I give them some content for their life. The whole pooping on the sidewalk thing. You haven't ever had dogs who do that, who decide I'm just going to poo right here?
Actually, I was up in San Jose for Easter, and my mother-in-law's poodle that she just got recently, that thing it's only a year old, but for some reason it doesn't like to poop in the grass or the dirt. It just does it right in the middle of the sidewalk. So yeah, half the time you get those smears, and half the time it comes up clean. But it's just an awkward situation, especially when people are looking at you.
Oh boy, yeah, never more embarrassed. Incredibly embarrassing. 1-star recommendations of the week. Anything that we want to recommend with the world, Rip? You've been helping me with some good ones lately. Sometimes I give you some little show stuff. Sometimes you give me some stuff. What do you got?
I actually have a really good one, DK, that I'm excited to share this week. I'll be honest, my Recs of the week have been kind of 1-star lately, but I heard a commercial for this the other day on the radio, of all places. It's called tipaplayer.com, tipaplayer.com. It's a website. It's basically an NIL website. If any of these people you're watching in the tournament, Caitlin Clark, whoever, you see what they're doing out there, you want to throw them a little cash, tipaplayer.com. There's a button. You can tip an athlete $10, $20, $25, enter whatever amount you want. You could make it recurring, set it up to go weekly, monthly. It's a way for fans it's like a cash app for these college athletes. And it's not just basketball. It's not just football. Lacrosse, almost every NCAA athlete is in this database on this website. So you want to tip DJ Burns for NC State, you want to tip a swimmer for Arizona State, get on it, tipaplayer.com. It's an amazing thing, I think, and something that, hey, you see Caitlin Clark drop 40, you see someone else have a good game, Zach Edey, whoever, throw him $5. It's 2024. Let's go.
I brought this up maybe years ago, not for athletes, for normies. And I said normies should wear everybody should have a lifelong QR code on their sleeves on all of their gear, on all their fits, have their QR code. And anytime you do anything in life that's worthy, you get a tip. You give somebody, let them hop in front of you in line. Maybe you're entering a freeway and somebody does the zipper correctly. One car correctly. Just scan the side of their car, drop them $5. Why not extend it to everybody?
Good point. Unfortunately, I did search Hunter Yurachek, and he's not available to tip for anyone who enjoyed that interview. But you can tip the 1-star recruits. The best way to do it is go buy an Arkansas shirt at 500level.com. Go buy an NBA shirt. Go buy an NFL shirt. Brock Purdy, anybody. 500level.com, discount code podcast at checkout. Let's go, DK. What's your record of the week?
Such good shirts. I don't know if they have Moses Moody shirts yet, but they damn should if they don't
Moses
yet.
Moody Warriors is on there.
That's one that you need. That's one that you definitely need. 1-star recommendation of the week for me. It's a good day of the week to support others. Rip, I'm going to take one out of your bag. I want to support our friends at Trash Talk Boys and our guy Train, who helps us quite a bit on this show. They have a new partnership with Manscaped. And I know everybody's heard about Manscaped. The truth really is summer's coming up. You can't have pubics hanging out of your bathing suit. And since the One Stars were working with Manscaped a couple years ago, the product has really gotten so much better. I think, Rip, when we were working with Manscaped, it was Gen 1, maybe
Yeah, now
Generation
it's
2.
like lawnmower version 5.
It's a very great one. I mean, it's waterproof. It's better. Battery life. It's just way better. It's like a iPhone 6 to iPhone 15. Still way better. So I recognize that. So with love, all of our one-star listeners, if you look down right now, and if you got a handful of pubes hanging out, just go ahead, take a look. I'll wait.
Are you directing this to people in Arkansas? Do you think they have hairy balls?
Everybody, I'm
is this for
talking to
anybody?
you. Everybody. I know everybody just thought about their situation there in that moment of time. Go ahead, go to manscaped.com, check out, enter promo code Trash Talk 20. That's Trash Talk 20. You'll save some money and get free shipping. So love to our friend Tran. Thank you, brother, for all your help. Also, love to people who don't want to offend folks at the beach. All right. Trash Talk 20 is the code. Save a little bit of money. Hit the music, Rip. Rips Reacts. Devin Booker dropped 50 on the Pelicans earlier this week. What's your season prediction at this point for the Suns? Do they make the playoffs, and how deep do they go?
They definitely make the playoffs. They have a really hard schedule. I think 6 games remaining. So I'm going to say they end up in one of those play-in spots. They're actually a game back from the 6th seed with a game against New Orleans remaining and some other playoff contenders. But they've been so inconsistent this year. I'm saying they're going to end up in the play-in. And how far do they go? Gosh, they're going to have a tough matchup in the first round. I'm saying first round elimination in a 6 or 7 game series. Unfortunately, they're going to have to retool and rebuild this roster a little bit. It hasn't worked out. Maybe Frank Vogel's not the answer.
Yikes. Is this Rip or is this Gary in Phoenix? Sweet Lord.
Can we get Eric Musselman in Phoenix? Want to go back to the NBA, Muss?
He'd be a good fit there. He'd be a good fit. Astros, Ronel Blanco throw a new header. Rip, what's your favorite baseball moment you witnessed live?
Yeah, for me, it goes back to when I was 12 years old. DK, I used to ride my bike every morning before school to Tempe Diablo Stadium where the Mariners had spring training. And it happened to be the year that Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. were both on Seattle. 6:30 in the morning one day before school, Ken Griffey Sr., who was like 40 years old at the time, pulled me into the clubhouse and said, "Dude, you're here every day. Come check out the clubhouse." He gave me a tour of the clubhouse for like 10 minutes. Been trying to get him on this podcast to tell him about it and thank him for it. But it goes back to 30 years ago and something that never left me.
Not bad. I saw Barry Bonds hit 756. How about that? 2007.
Hey, that's way better than mine, man.
Get Barry on the pod. We'll talk about it. It was actually a fluke that I was there. It was I played hooky from work one day. Ended up there. Just happened to be that day. Rip, DJ Burns led North Carolina State over Duke for a spot to the Final Four. Unexpected. DJ himself has a handful of vending machines on campus for extra cash. He's an entrepreneur. What is the top item that you always must get out of a vending machine that you always get?
You're not going to be surprised by this at all. For me, it's Skittles. I'm a Lamar Odom Skittles guy. I like to have them every Halloween, every time I can get my hands on them. And they're usually no more than $2, so it's not going to break the bank. I'm a Skittles guy through and through.
I'm shocked. I thought you were going to say Cheez-Its. I'm shocked.
Cheez-Its would be the salty fix for me, but Skittles are number one when it comes
Skittles
to
are number one. They just put a ban on Skittles. Might be cancer causing. You might have to chill on Skittles. Rip, I always go back and forth. I think about getting the Welch's fruit snacks. I usually fall back on a Twix. It's a tough world out there. What can you do? Make yourself happy. Thank you, listeners. 5 stars. New listeners. We have tons of great guests. If you want to circle back, get on social media. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Maybe you got some connections to John Daly. Might want to get him on the podcast here. We talked about Moses Moody. Any other people you'd like to hear on the podcast, let us know. There's one thing that we're good at. As you can see, getting guests. It's our specialty. Podcasting might be 1 star. Securing guests, 5 star. Give us 5 stars. Thank you. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.